You've probably stared at a spinning circle on GitHub or GitLab, waiting for your build to finish. 10 minutes pass. Then, a red X appears. A flaky test, or maybe a missing environment variable. You fix it, commit, and wait again. We treat these CI/CD pipelines like black boxes. We feed them YAML, and they magically provision servers, run scripts, and deploy our code. But what is actually happening under the hood? If you had to write a continuous integration engine from scratch this weekend, how would you design it? How does it know which tasks can run in parallel, which must wait, and how to pass gigabytes of build artifacts across isolated virtual machines without losing state? Today, we are going to build one in our minds. We will decode the execution graph, map out the state coordinator, and see exactly how modern runners manage the chaotic flow of code to production. Let's start with a straightforward setup. Imagine you have a basic project. To ship it, you need to complete 4 tasks: compile the code, run unit tests, build a Docker image, and push that image to a registry. If we write a shell script to run these sequentially, it works, but it's painfully slow. Why should we wait for unit tests to finish before we start compiling our front-end assets? They don't depend on each other. But we also can't push the Docker image before we build it. If we run them all in parallel blindly, the deploy step will execute before the build step exists, and the whole run will crash. We've all seen that error. To run things as fast as possible without crashing, our task runner needs to understand relationships. It needs to know that compile is a prerequisite for test, and test is a prerequisite for deploy. This web of relationships isn't just a list of steps. It is a mathematical structure called a Directed Acyclic Graph, or a DAG. Directed means the arrows point in one direction, from prerequisite to dependent task. Acyclic means there are no loops. You can't have task A depend on task B, while task B depends on task A. If you do, your pipeline will spin forever, locked in a digital stalemate. Every modern CI/CD engine, from massive enterprise systems to lightweight task runners like is fundamentally a DAG execution engine. When you write a YAML file or a Python DSL to define your pipeline, you aren't writing a script. You are drawing a map. The engine's first job is to parse this map, build the graph in memory, and validate that it has no cycles before a single line of code ever executes. To visualize how this graph executes, think of your pipeline as a complex marble run. Each task is a gate, and the execution signal is a marble. At the top, we release the marbles. Some gates can open immediately because nothing is blocking them. As soon as a gate finishes its task, it releases its marbles downward. If a lower gate has 3 incoming tracks, it must wait. It holds a physical latch that won't release until all 3 marbles have arrived and dropped into the slot. Once the last marble falls, the latch clicks open, the task fires, and the process continues. In code, this physical latch is our scheduler. It constantly monitors the state of every node in the graph, waiting for all parent nodes to transition to a completed state before unleashing the child nodes. This marble run model works beautifully on a single machine. But in production, running everything on one server is a security and performance nightmare. You don't want a rogue unit test to leak your production database credentials or a heavy compile step to starve your linter of CPU. So, we distribute the work. We spin up separate, isolated runners, often ephemeral containers or virtual machines. But now, our elegant marble run is shattered. The compile task runs on runner alpha. The Docker build task runs on runner beta. Runner beta needs the compiled binaries produced by runner alpha. How do we get those files across the network? If we just let each runner operate in its own isolated bubble, beta will search for the build artifacts, find nothing, and fail. We have a distributed state problem. To bridge this gap, we must decouple the execution engine from the execution state. We introduce a central coordinator and an object store. Think of the coordinator as an air traffic controller and the object store as a secure warehouse. When runner alpha finishes compiling the code, it doesn't just signal the scheduler. It packages its output into a tarball and uploads it to the warehouse under a unique key. usually a hash of the task's inputs and source files. When the scheduler sees alpha is done, it tells runner beta to start. But before beta runs its actual script, its bootstrap agent queries the warehouse, downloads the tarball from alpha, and unpacks it. To the developer writing the pipeline, it looks like a seamless flow of files. Under the hood, it's a highly coordinated dance of uploads, downloads, and network boundaries. If you look at traditional tools like Jenkins, this state transfer was often handled via shared network file systems, which quickly became massive bottlenecks. Modern systems, and even lightweight local runners like Hum, use a more elegant pattern: content-addressable storage. Instead of saying, "Give me the output of step 2, the runner asks for the content matching a specific cryptographic hash. If the files haven't changed since the last run, the runner doesn't even need to download them. It can pull them directly from a local cache. This is how some steps in your pipeline complete in milliseconds. The scheduler looks at the DAG, realizes the source code for the compile step hasn't changed, skips the execution entirely, and immediately hands the cached artifact to the next step. We aren't just running code faster, we are avoiding running it at all. Let's look at the scheduling algorithm itself. How does the engine decide the exact order to fire these tasks? It uses an algorithm called a topological sort. Imagine laying out our 3D graph flat on a table, stretching it into a single line from left to right, such that every arrow points forward. To do this, we use Kahn's algorithm. We find all nodes with 0 incoming dependencies, our starting points. We place them in a queue. As we pull a node from the queue and execute it, we virtually erase its outgoing arrows from the graph. If any downstream nodes now have 0 incoming arrows, they get pushed onto the queue. If we ever finish this process and there are still nodes left with arrows pointing to them, we know our graph has a cycle, and we halt. It's an elegant, linear time complexity solution to a problem that seems incredibly complex at scale. But code execution in the real world is messy. Networks partition. Runner VMs get preempted by cloud providers. A test suite randomly flakes because of a timing issue. How does our engine handle failure without starting the entire multi-hour pipeline from scratch? It comes down to node state design. Each node in our DAG must act as a state machine with strict transitions: pending, running, succeeded, failed, or skipped. If a node fails, the scheduler immediately marks all its downstream child nodes as skipped. But the independent branches of the graph? They keep running. If your iOS build fails, your Android build should keep compiling. And when you click retry on that failed node, the scheduler doesn't wipe the slate clean. It surgically restarts only the failed node and its downstream dependents, reusing the cached state of the successful branches. By building this system in our minds, the magic of CI/CD evaporates, replaced by a clean, deterministic architecture. It's a parser that turns code into a directed acyclic graph. It's a topological scheduler that resolves dependencies. It's an isolated network of workers that communicate through content-addressable object storage. When you understand this, you stop fighting your YAML configurations. You realize that a slow build isn't a mystery. It's a bottleneck in your graph's critical path, the longest chain of dependent tasks that dictates the minimum runtime. You start structuring your code and your tests to maximize parallel branches, and you design your steps to be completely idempotent so they can be safely retried or cached without side effects. The next time your build fails, don't just blindly commit a minor tweak and hope for the best. Open your pipeline configuration and visualize the graph. If you want to take this further, try writing a 100-line task runner in your favorite language. Implement a basic topological sort. Run 2 shell commands in parallel using threads, and pass a text file between them. Seeing the threads spin up and hand off data on your local machine is the ultimate cure for black box syndrome. What part of the CI/CD pipeline has caused you the most frustration? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to dive deeper into system design internals, hit subscribe.